What's next for you?
A vacation? A little time off?
Pierce Brosnan's wife stuns fans with her dramatic weight loss transformation.
Pierce Brosnan's wife just shocked the world again. After decades of cruel headlines and harsh body shaming, Keely Shaye Smith stepped onto the red carpet with a look that silenced the critics and stunned everyone watching. Slimmed down, radiant, and unapologetically confident, Keely's transformation has become one of Hollywood's most talked-about moments in 2024. But is it just about the weight loss? Or is there a much deeper story the world is finally seeing? We're unpacking the truth behind the headlines, Keely's quiet battle, her defiance in the face of mockery, and the powerful love story with Pierce Brosnan that has always been the real headline. Keely's transformation goes public. For decades, Keely Shaye Smith had faced the unrelenting glare of public judgment. Her weight criticized more than her work, her looks debated more than her legacy. But in March 2024, everything changed. Keely stepped onto the red carpet at the US-Ireland Alliance's Oscar Wilde Awards in a sleek black pantsuit, her silhouette refined, her posture bold, and her message clear without saying a single word. She wasn't hiding anymore. That moment, quietly confident, unapologetically radiant, marked a shift in how people saw her, and more importantly, how she demanded to be seen. After years of enduring demeaning headlines and internet trolls who obsessed over her size rather than her substance, Keely's new look wasn't just about aesthetics. It was a power move. Then came July 2024, at the Mobland premiere in New York City, where she appeared alongside husband Pierce Brosnan. This time, she ditched the suit and opted for something even more striking, a black lace mini dress, elegant yet daring, hugging her frame and highlighting her toned legs and poised figure. At 61, she stunned. Not because she finally lost weight, but because she owned the space like she always deserved to. The camera flashes didn't capture a transformation, they captured a triumph. For once, social media didn't erupt in criticism. It exploded with praise. Users flooded comment sections with compliments. She looks incredible, so classy and powerful, and finally, they're seeing her for more than her body size. The same platforms that once mocked her figure now seemed eager to rewrite history and jump on the bandwagon of admiration. And while some might call it hypocritical, it's undeniable. Keely turned the narrative on its head. For years, she had been one of the most unfairly scrutinized women in celebrity culture. The cruel juxtaposition of Pierce Brosnan, Hollywood's suave, eternally handsome James Bond, and his non-Hollywood wife became tabloid gold. People asked why he stayed with her, how he could still find her attractive, and suggested she undergo surgery to match her husband's public image. Keely never publicly responded. She simply lived, loved, and stood by the man who loved her for exactly who she was. And now she'd flipped the script. With one black suit and one lace dress, Keely didn't just surprise the public, she commanded their attention. She walked hand in hand with Pierce, but this time, eyes were on her, and not in the way they used to be. The commentary wasn't about flaws, pounds, or assumptions. It was about elegance, confidence, and presence. The most telling detail? Pierce himself couldn't stop beaming. In photos, his hand rested protectively on her back, his gaze proud and unwavering. It was the same energy that's defined their marriage for over 2 decades. Only now, the world was finally paying attention to the strength and beauty they had always shared. Yet, through it all, Keely made no public statements about the transformation. No interviews, no "how I lost the weight" features in glossy magazines, no brand deals or fitness partnerships. Her silence spoke volumes. This wasn't a publicity stunt. This wasn't revenge on trolls. It was evolution, on her own terms, But this wasn't just a revenge body. It was the public unveiling of a woman who had weathered decades of cruelty and decided to reclaim the narrative. The decades of body shaming. Long before her transformation turned heads in 2024, Keely Shaye Smith lived through a storm of public cruelty, a relentless, dehumanizing obsession with her appearance that shadowed her for years. As the wife of Pierce Brosnan, one of the most iconic James Bonds in film history, Keely became an easy target for a superficial media machine, and it didn't take long before she was branded with a title that was as insulting as it was dismissive: Pierce's overweight wife. The tabloids had a field day. They ignored her professional accomplishments as a respected journalist, actress, and environmental advocate. They overlooked her extensive documentary work and dedication to marine conservation. All of it erased because of a number on a scale. To many gossip sites and internet commenters, her life and worth were reduced to how she looked, standing next to a silver-haired heartthrob. The commentary was cruel, repetitive, and deeply misogynistic. Every public appearance became an opportunity for photographers to capture her from unflattering angles and slap mocking captions across magazine covers. Every pound gained became a headline. The reality that Keely had struggled with post-pregnancy thyroid issues, which are known to affect metabolism and weight, was rarely mentioned. Instead, people demanded to know why she hadn't snapped back or fixed herself to match the fantasy image of Pierce's Hollywood lifestyle. And it wasn't just strangers or gossip columns. The toxicity ran deeper. Reports surfaced that even friends within their social circle had advised Pierce that Keely should consider weight loss surgery to preserve his public image. Think about that. Not only was a woman's body being treated like a PR liability, but her marriage, strong, enduring, and grounded in love, was being judged against the impossible standards of Hollywood vanity. Through it all, Keely never responded publicly. She didn't clap back. She didn't post rants on social media or write open letters to critics. She didn't try to prove anything. Instead, she lived her life quietly and with grace. She continued raising her children, nurturing her marriage, producing documentaries, and advocating for environmental protection. While the world screamed at her to change, Keely stayed still, and that silence became its own form of power. Meanwhile, Pierce Brosnan remained unwavering in his love and support. In interviews, he praised his wife's beauty and strength. He made it clear that he wasn't married to a fantasy. He was married to a woman. "When Keely looks at me, I go weak," he once said. "She has this strength I couldn't live without." He refused to entertain the suggestion that her worth was defined by her size. And yet, the comments never truly stopped. People online went as far as to question why Pierce hadn't divorced her. Some assumed that if she didn't fix herself, he would inevitably move on. It was a brutal double standard. Pierce could age with grace, white hair, wrinkles, a softer jawline, and still be seen as desirable. Keely, on the other hand, was told she had to stay forever youthful, forever slim, forever perfect, or risk public shame. But she endured, with dignity, without spectacle, without apology. Now, with her transformation making headlines for different reasons, some of those same trolls have turned quiet. The tone has changed. The narrative is shifting. But Keely's strength wasn't born from thinness. It was forged in the years when she was mocked, dismissed, and devalued, and kept going anyway. But instead of clapping back online, Keely made a different choice, and the result was more powerful than any statement. Why her weight was never the point. While the world reduced Keely Shaye Smith to a dress size, she was always playing a much deeper game, one built on purpose, resilience, and quiet confidence. For those who truly paid attention, her story was never about appearance. It was about identity, about using her voice for something greater than the next tabloid cover. While critics zoomed in on her waistline, Keely stayed focused on something they couldn't see: the meaningful life she was building far away from the noise. Keely has never apologized for how she looked, and she never needed to. In a candid 2006 Vogue interview, long before body positivity was trending, she stated, "I never shy away from my curves. I never hide in baggy clothing. It wasn't a performance. It was simply the truth." Keely was unapologetically herself. She had the kind of self-awareness that comes from years of doing work that matters, from surrounding herself with people who love her for reasons deeper than image. She didn't need validation from critics because she already knew her worth. And she wasn't alone. Pierce Brosnan stood beside her, not just as a partner, but as her loudest supporter. "I love my wife's curves. She's stunning," he said in the same Vogue interview, silencing anyone who dared imply that his love was conditional. Over and over again, Pierce chose to focus not on aesthetics, but essence. It was her heart, her strength, her mind, and her devotion to their family and causes that made him fall deeper in love. What the media failed to grasp was that Keely never needed to prove anything. While they wrote headlines about her figure, she was raising 5 children, 2 of them biological and 3 from Pierce's first marriage. She co-parented through grief, stood by her husband as he mourned the deaths of his first wife and daughter, and continued building a life rooted in compassion. And that was just the personal side. Professionally, Keely was and remains a force of nature. She began her career as a TV reporter, interviewing legends like Oprah Winfrey and Michael Jordan, but that was only the beginning. She went on to become a dedicated environmental advocate and filmmaker, creating documentaries that exposed the dangers to marine life and fragile ecosystems. She has worked with organizations across Mexico and Hawaii, championing sustainability and fighting for change. Awards followed, but more importantly, so did impact. And still, all anyone could talk about was her weight. That's the tragedy and absurdity of it. The world tried to define her by something so superficial, while she was out there doing work that actually mattered. They ignored her voice, her activism, her brilliance, all for the sake of a headline that made people click. But Keely never gave them the satisfaction of a reaction. She didn't need to defend herself. She let her life speak for itself. The truth is, she never needed to change her body to prove her value. Her confidence didn't come from approval. It came from living a life she believed in, from raising boys who became artists, from standing beside a man who never stopped celebrating her, from protecting the ocean and fighting for a cleaner planet, from waking up every day and choosing purpose over performance. Now, with her transformation gaining global attention, some may say she's finally having her moment, but they're wrong. She's always had it. The world just wasn't ready to see it. And yet, even as the headlines attacked her body, something else was quietly fueling her strength, something the world overlooked. The real Keely, beyond the red carpet. The flashes of paparazzi bulbs and glamorous gowns may define public perception, but Keely Shaye Smith's true story isn't written in red carpet moments. It's written in decades of hard work, quiet advocacy, and a relentless commitment to causes far bigger than herself. While tabloids obsessed over her body, Keely was out in the world doing the work, real work, that few people even knew about. Before she was Pierce Brosnan's wife, Keely was already building a name for herself. She wasn't just a pretty face on TV, she was an award-winning journalist, a correspondent for Entertainment Tonight and The Today Show, who interviewed some of the biggest names in entertainment, from Oprah Winfrey to Cameron Diaz. She appeared in music videos, covered Hollywood from the inside, and held her own in an industry that often sidelines women as they age. But instead of chasing fame, Keely pivoted her focus toward impact. She traded red carpets for real causes and headlines for habitats. Over the years, Keely became a dedicated environmental activist, shifting her full attention to issues that were being ignored. She became a voice for the voiceless, marine animals, fragile ecosystems, coastal communities, and took her camera where most reporters wouldn't go. Not content with behind-the-desk reporting, she dove into the field, co-producing and directing environmental documentaries that brought attention to ocean pollution, whale preservation, and sustainable living practices. Her work has had a powerful reach. In Mexico and Hawaii, Keely led marine conservation efforts that garnered recognition from environmental organizations across the globe. She has collaborated with scientists, grassroots leaders, and nonprofits to protect endangered species and promote safe environmental practices. And she did all of this while raising 5 children and being a pillar of strength to one of the most recognized actors in the world. Yet, through it all, what did the media choose to focus on? Not her voice, not her accomplishments, not her passion, but her weight. It's a story as old as Hollywood itself. A woman does extraordinary things, but the world asks her to shrink herself. Literally and figuratively, Keely refused. She never let their noise drown out her purpose. She stayed grounded, even as the internet tried to tear her down. The irony, of course, is glaring. While the press branded her as just a wife, Keely was out there changing the world. She didn't need magazine covers or trending hashtags. Her legacy was unfolding in the ocean reefs, in the minds of her children, and in the lives of the communities her work helped protect. And at her side through it all, Pierce Brosnan, quietly cheering her on. While the cameras loved him for his James Bond swagger, he loved Keely for her strength, her vision, and her heart. He wasn't just her husband. He was her partner in advocacy. From climate awareness to ocean cleanups, he used his own platform to amplify her mission. They weren't just Hollywood's unlikely couple. They were allies in a much deeper kind of mission. Keely never needed a comeback story. She never had to reinvent herself. She simply kept showing up, year after year, project after project, doing the work that mattered while being judged for things that didn't. And that's what makes her transformation so profound. It's not that she changed, it's that the world is only now starting to see who she's always been. Her weight may have changed, but her mission never wavered. And behind it all was a man who never stopped believing in her. Pierce Brosnan, the devoted partner. In the world of Hollywood, where loyalty is fleeting and relationships often fall apart under public scrutiny, Pierce Brosnan stands as a rare exception. A global heartthrob known for his role as James Bond, Pierce could have lived a life built purely on image. But behind the suave exterior was a man shaped by profound grief, unwavering loyalty, and a deep understanding of what love really means. Before he ever met Keely Shaye Smith, Pierce's life had already been marked by immense loss. In 1991, his first wife, Cassandra Harris, passed away after a long battle with ovarian cancer. Cassandra had been a Bond girl herself, starring in For Your Eyes Only, and the two shared a bond both professionally and personally. They had one son together, Sean, and Pierce also legally adopted Cassandra's children, Charlotte and Christopher, from her previous marriage. When Cassandra died, Pierce became a single father to 3 children, navigating his rising career while silently enduring heartbreak. But tragedy wasn't finished with him. In 2013, his daughter Charlotte died of the same disease that took her mother's life. In a public statement, Pierce said, "Charlotte fought her cancer with grace and humanity, courage and dignity. Our hearts are heavy with the loss of our beautiful dear girl." These weren't just tabloid footnotes. These were defining moments, trials that could have hardened a man or left him emotionally guarded. Instead, Pierce opened his heart again. He met Keely in 1994, just a few years after Cassandra's passing. She wasn't just a journalist sent to do a celebrity interview. She was a light in his darkest chapter. They connected instantly, began dating, and slowly, Pierce found joy again. Keely didn't just bring comfort. She brought a new chapter of life, filled with purpose, laughter, and love. By 2001, they were married in a picturesque ceremony in Ireland, and together they raised 5 children, a blended family with deep roots and even deeper love. Despite all the media attention and constant judgment surrounding Keely's appearance, Pierce never wavered. When trolls mocked her weight or questioned why he remained devoted to her, Pierce chose compassion over confrontation. In interviews, he often went out of his way to celebrate his wife's presence in his life. "When Keely looks at me, I go weak," he once said. "She has this strength that I couldn't live without." And this devotion wasn't just lip service. It was visible in the smallest, most personal choices. In his 2022 film Black Adam, Pierce wore his actual wedding ring and a watch that Keely had gifted him years earlier. The watch bore an inscription that read, "Time flies on love's wings." At the movie's premiere, he explained why he chose to wear them for the role. It seemed appropriate. In an industry built on illusions, Pierce brought real love to the screen, even in a superhero film. Their public appearances are often filled with the same energy, hand in hand, eyes locked, casual smiles exchanged as if no one else is watching. And maybe that's the secret. They never played to the cameras. Their love wasn't a performance. It was a quiet, consistent presence, unshaken by public opinion and strengthened by private battles. Pierce could have chased the Hollywood ideal. He could have curated a public image that matched the fantasy, but instead, he chose real connection. And when people asked how he could love someone who didn't fit the mold, he responded not with defensiveness, but truth. He saw her, not her size. And while internet trolls mocked their love, Pierce made it clear that beauty, real beauty, wasn't measured by waistlines. Her weight loss, quiet, powerful, and intentional. There was no magazine cover, no viral video, no dramatic before and after reveal. Keely Shaye Smith's transformation didn't arrive with fanfare, it arrived with silence. And somehow, that silence said more than any interview ever could. When she reappeared on the red carpet in 2024 with a visibly slimmer frame, the world was stunned. Not because she had lost weight, but because she had done it without inviting the world in. No diet deal, no talk show explanation, no press tour, just presence. In an industry where every ounce gained or lost is tracked like a stock market ticker, Keely made the unthinkable choice to let her transformation speak for itself. It wasn't a promotional campaign, it was personal. And because she had endured so much unsolicited commentary over the years, her refusal to frame this as a comeback made it feel all the more powerful. She didn't owe the public a breakdown of what changed. After decades of being picked apart, she simply let them witness what couldn't be denied, her glow. What the headlines always seem to ignore is that Keely had long faced real health challenges, specifically related to post-pregnancy thyroid issues. Thyroid imbalances can drastically affect metabolism, weight, and energy levels, especially in women over 40. While some media outlets ran harsh commentary about her appearance, few took the time to explore the reality behind it. They called it letting herself go. They labeled her lazy or unmotivated, but they never acknowledged the medical truth, one that countless women silently battle every day. What's remarkable isn't just that she lost weight, it's how she carried herself through the years she hadn't. The grace, the poise, the refusal to lash out at a world that repeatedly tried to humiliate her, it all built the foundation for what we're now witnessing. This isn't just about shedding pounds. It's about reclaiming space. At 60, Keely radiates more than health. She radiates assurance, joy, and ownership of her story. Her public appearances today tell a different kind of story. It's not just, "Look at me now," it's, "I never needed your approval." Her confidence isn't new. It's simply being seen with fresh eyes. When she stepped out in that fitted black lace mini dress at the Mobland premiere, the compliments came pouring in. But this time, the tone was different. The admiration didn't feel voyeuristic or mocking. It felt earned. The woman who was once the target of anonymous comment sections had now become an emblem of quiet, grounded transformation. Still, the curiosity lingers. How did she do it? Why now? People want the secret. But the truth is, Keely never shared a routine, a meal plan, or a fitness regime. And maybe that's the point. Maybe there is no dramatic method, or maybe, just maybe, she knows that offering up the how risks turning her evolution into yet another thing for the internet to dissect. More importantly, this was never about snapping back or achieving revenge. Keely's transformation was never for critics. It was for herself, for her health, her peace, her sense of control. After years of being the internet's favorite target, her weight loss didn't change her essence. It revealed her strength in a way the world could no longer ignore. She didn't shout for attention. She didn't perform the transformation. She simply stepped into it, quietly, powerfully, and on her own terms. And maybe that's what made the biggest impact of all. Not the number on a scale, but the decision to stop giving anyone else authority over her body or her narrative. In a culture obsessed with fast fixes and loud reveals, Keely's transformation was a masterclass in patience, intention, and quiet resolve. She reminded the world that some of the most profound changes don't come with announcements. They arrive when a woman decides to stop shrinking, not just physically but emotionally, and finally takes up all the space she was always meant to occupy. But even now, critics want answers. How did she do it? Why now? And what's next for Hollywood's most resilient couple? Changing the narrative for herself and others. What began as a conversation about body image has evolved into something far more meaningful. Keely Shaye Smith's journey isn't just about transformation. It's about reclamation. Not just of a figure or a headline, but of a narrative that was never truly hers to begin with. For decades, the media and public tried to write her story for her, using size as punctuation and judgment as the plot line. But now, with quiet grace and undeniable strength, Keely has taken the pen back. Her story shines a light on the deeply embedded expectations placed on women, particularly those in the orbit of fame. In Hollywood, age is feared and weight is weaponized. Women are praised for staying small, scolded for growing older, and rarely celebrated for anything beyond the surface. Keely didn't just resist this narrative, she rewrote it. Her transformation was never about chasing youth or winning over critics. It was about proving, through action rather than words, that evolution doesn't have to come with explanation. Her weight loss may have grabbed headlines, but the real transformation was cultural. She showed that a woman in her 60s doesn't have to fade into the background, that you can be married for over 20 years and still radiate presence, desire, and purpose. She challenged the idea that only youth equals beauty, and she proved that impact, not image, is what defines relevance. And what did Keely do after the applause? She went right back to work, not in front of flashing cameras or on talk show couches, but in the places that have always mattered to her, protecting marine life, advocating for environmental change, raising her family, sharing quiet moments with Pierce, walking hand in hand at events without making any grand proclamations. She didn't use her transformation to launch a brand or sell a story. She simply continued being herself. The self the world finally chose to notice. This is what makes her so powerful. Keely never needed the validation she's now receiving. She had it within her all along. She just chose to keep moving forward while others stayed stuck criticizing what they didn't understand. Her silence wasn't weakness, it was wisdom. In an era where everyone is expected to respond, to defend, to explain, Keely stayed centered. That refusal to conform, to shrink herself, either physically or emotionally, for someone else's comfort, is what has resonated with so many. Young women, mothers, older women, those who have been judged unfairly, who have been told to alter themselves to fit an ideal, see in Keely a mirror of strength. A woman who endured cruelty without becoming cruel, who evolved without apology, and who stood by love without ever feeling the need to perform it for approval. Even Pierce's unwavering devotion adds another layer to the narrative. It reminds us that real love doesn't bend under pressure from the outside world, that a man who's lived through unimaginable tragedy can still cherish a partner not for how she looks on camera, but for how she stands by him in life. Together, Keely and Pierce have redefined what a lasting Hollywood romance looks like. Not flashy, but faithful. Today, Keely Shaye Smith is no longer Pierce Brosnan's wife in the eyes of the public. She's a woman who endured, transformed, and re-emerged on her terms. Her story is no longer about curves or criticism. It's about impact, resilience, and the quiet power of knowing who you are. In the end, it wasn't Keely's weight loss that silenced the critics. It was her strength, her silence, and her refusal to be anything but herself. And perhaps that's the greatest legacy she's shaping, not just as a public figure, but as a human being. Keely's journey is a quiet rebellion against the culture of cruelty, a reminder that self-worth is not up for debate, and that dignity doesn't need to shout to be heard. In a world obsessed with appearances, she chose depth. In a media landscape built on spectacle, she chose substance. And in doing so, she's given countless others permission to stop performing and start living. For real, for good, and for themselves. It's proof that you don't have to change who you are to be worthy of love or respect. Sometimes, simply staying true to yourself is the boldest statement you can make. Keely Shaye Smith's story isn't just about weight loss. It's about dignity, love, and what it means to thrive in the spotlight without losing yourself in it. If you were inspired by her journey, don't forget to like this video, drop your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more stories that go deeper than the headlines. And if you're ready for another incredible story, go ahead and click on the next video on your screen. You won't want to miss it.